Welcome to the Shit Creek Survivor Show, where we openly share our personal stories of getting stuck up Shit Creek without a paddle. The good, the bad, the ugly, the funny, right? But more importantly, we celebrate and share how we got out of our own shit creeks and how we got our lives moving in the right direction. For those not familiar with the term stuck up shit creek without a paddle, it refers to situations, places, and circumstances that we end up in life that we never thought or even believed we could end up in. And when we got there, we never believed we could get out, but somehow we did. So the Shit Creek Survivor Show is about sharing stories, finding support, and realizing that even when things feel like a total mess, there is a way forward as long as you don't give up. I'm joined again. I'm joined again by my former police partner and good friend Dennis Coffman. How are we doing today, Dennis?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. We're here for another one. Good to see you.
There we. Yeah. In the last episode, we discussed uh, the individual that I met who was supposed to help me with PTSD, who was posing as having PTSD,
Oh yeah.
which is which is weird, but it happens. So make sure you check your resources. And I figured, playing on that, you out there listening to us should be checking your resources. So we're going to share a little bit about ourselves today. I'm personally going to tell you the craziest police call that I responded to. And I'm also going to tell you how I met and married my dear angel of a wife, Kate. And I believe Dennis might share a little story about how he met his angel of a wife, Julie. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. So I figure let's just jump straight in with I'm going to tell you how I met Kate, my wife. I was already a police officer when I met her, and how meeting ended up to us getting married about 8 months later in Reno, Nevada.
Nice.
With yeah, it's a pretty interesting
Was it an
story.
Elvis impersonator? Did your vows to that conducted the ceremony?
No,
Was it a
no,
drive-through?
you'll see. He played a lot of parts in the whole process. So the way it worked is Kate and I, she was working the first night as a bartender. I walk in, I'm going to meet a police buddy. I start chit-chatting with her. My buddy shows up. I think she's into my buddy, so I actually get her number for my buddy, which was you know him. And then but as we're walking out, she goes, even though I gave him my number, it doesn't mean that we can't talk. And I'm like, oh, okay. So we're just sort of chit-chatting, and I thought I was like totally in the friend
She's
zone.
playing the field. She's
I know,
balancing you
I
both
know.
out, seeing which one's going to work out the best for her. Smart
But
girl.
but I was pretty smitten out the gates. So
Yeah. All
it
right.
was like, this sounds weird, but even if I'm in the friend zone, I'd want to be around this person. So regardless,
Yeah.
it is what it is. So we hang out, we go on what now I know is our first date. I thought we were just kind of hanging out, but there's an apple butter festival that's hosted in like not
Kinswick.
South St. Louis City. Is
Kinswick.
it's like,
Kinswick.
yeah, so like in Jefferson County, there's a in
Yeah.
Kemswick, there's an apple butter festival, which I didn't even know what apple butter was.
Really? My
But
grandma used to
yeah,
make it like from scratch, and grandma's apple butter that you find down in the cellar that she made from the year before was just like the best find ever to put on a little bit of toast.
I had
No,
never had it in my whole life.
no, wow,
I was raised in kind of like an English Scottish household, so
that's just
we're, you know what I mean? Like we're kind of eating that sort of stuff instead of Missouri country apple butter. We had just never been introduced to it, you know. I had no desire to have any apple butter, but I had a great desire to hang out with this young lady. So we go and we go into and she's going through all the tents, and all the guys out there who go to any fair or festival, they know that part of the duty is to go to all the tents and act like everything is cool. That's just a joke,
oh,
but
some
I'm
of it is
saying,
cool though.
be like, oh, that
This is
I
thing that
really
people
like
made
that
at
purse.
home. They make artwork. They made purses. They make clothing. Or they buy
I know.
cheap blankets and they sell cheap blankets.
That's more what it looked like. It looked like stuff that had been acquired cheap that was being kind of pawned off as like a homemade thing, like all these purses with crosses on it and like bedazzled stuff. But she's excited about it, and I'm just like, yeah, I guess it's cool. But one of the main things I do remember from that first time getting to hang out with her is we're sitting in the grass and I'm wearing jeans, right? And these jeans were a little tight. I think they might have been a little too tight for me. And that seam going through my crotch basically was giving me a ball camel toe. Do you know what I'm talking about?
The
So,
moose knuckle
so, so
or the moose
I
nose. I'm sorry, the moose nose.
so I got up really quickly at one point, and I thought in that moment that it had popped my ball off. It was that bad, but I had to act tough and not let her know what was going on. So this is my first time hanging out with her, right? I've already busted a nut. That is so terrible to say, but so I've already busted a nut, but I'm acting cool. I'm like, let's go, and we go, and like all that kind of stuff. And I was very smitten on her, so. I think I even like I think it was like Halloween. So instead of like spending the whole night at the Halloween party I was supposed to go to at midnight, I went to the bar that she was serving at and kind of tried to hang out with her a little bit. All that crazy stuff. It all turned into a series of dates where she looked at me and said, "Hey, if you want to kiss me, just do it." And I'm like, "For real?" And then it happened. So she chose me as I was waiting for her. We move in together. Everything's going awesome. I'm absolutely in love with this woman. And we decide, well, actually, she looks at me one day. Some people may relate to this story. And she says, "You love me, right?" "Yeah, for sure, honey. I love you with all my heart." "You're going to marry me, right?" "Yeah, of course I'm going to marry you." "Absolutely, honey." Well then, why don't we just get married right now?" Don't know. And she said, "All right, well then let's get married." And all of a sudden, holy smokes, we're getting married. Where are we going? Um, we could either go to Niagara Falls, Vegas, or Reno, but we were pretty tight on money. And what happened was, is my dad worked for American Airlines for a long period of time, and that allows you to have family passes, which is like if there's a seat available on the plane after everyone boards, like standby, you can grab one of those seats.
Okay.
Okay. So all we had done prior to going to the airport, because we couldn't buy a ticket, is we had paid $300 to this chaplain or chapel in Reno, Nevada, $300. And that would take care of us getting married, the limo trip, and being taken to the courthouse to get the legal documents taken care of. So we show up to the airport. We don't even have a plane ticket. And we're hoping, maybe we'll be able to get a seat. But the, the way we had to do it is we had to take a plane to Dallas because Dallas is a hub for American Airlines.
Uh-huh.
And then from there we had to see if there was another available seat to get to Reno. So we actually got on the first available flight in the morning so this is Saturday. No, this is Friday. So Friday we're going and we get to Dallas probably about noon, and we try to get on the first flight to Reno, no go, no extra seats. We try to get onto the next flight to Reno, no go, no extra seats. We try to get on the last flight to Reno on Friday. There are two available seats, but they are not sitting together. The only two seats left on the plane, and we take it. We get on the plane. So we get there Friday, and I think we kind of like went to sleep really kind of quick, like had to look around. I think it was later. And then we woke up the next day and we had this plan. We were going to get picked up, I think, at like 2 in the afternoon. We were going to get taken to the courthouse. And then we were going to get taken to the chapel to get married. I'm not even wearing a suit and tie or anything like that. Just to back up a second. So, my mother during this period was actually overseas working a government contract. So, she was unaware that this was happening. And when I told my dad before we went, because we were using the passes, I'm pretty sure he thought she was pregnant, to tell you the truth. Like why are you doing this? So, so we get the two last seats. We're in Reno. We wake up the next day. It's like between noon and 2. I can't remember exactly when. We get picked up, and we get picked up in this limousine. The limo driver's super nice, and he takes us to the courthouse. We go inside the courthouse. We sign the paperwork. Now it's time for the ceremony. So we get back into the limo, and it takes us kind of to another part of Reno on the main strip, but he goes through a back alley and we get out of the limo and we have to go through the back door of the chapel. And this is kind of weird. I'm like, what's going on here? Because we're like literally walking past the dumpsters and the trash bags and all that kind of stuff. We enter from the back and move towards the front where there's the main entrance. Guess what's happening on the strip while we're about to get married? A motorcycle parade. Like a huge, so
Okay, so that's why you had to go to
outside, I don't know where the DVD is. I should destroy it, but I'm
the.
crying my eyes out, just like a blubbering mess, just like crying. And she is too. And, we go to the front. I think we got like a single piece of cake or something like that. And we get married and we're just pumped. In my mind, like, I can't believe this has happened. Oh my gosh. Like, this is great. You know what I mean? Here we go, life. And so we're good. If anyone's ever been to Reno, Nevada, or watched like the movie or the show Reno 911 or the movie Reno 911, in the middle of Reno, it looks like there's a big dome, but it's a weird looking dome. Do you know what I'm talking about, Coffman, at all?
Yeah,
It almost looks like what's the place you go, like the Science Museum, and you look up and you see the stars?
yeah, the
What is that called?
atrium or whatever, atrium. I can't even say it right now because South Park did an episode where they made fun of it and had a guy that had like a stutter, and now I can't even say it right.
So yeah, originally, like I didn't know what it
Planetarium,
was.
planetarium,
Planetarium.
planetarium.
That's a school, and so like in the middle of it is like this. It looks from the outside like it's like a planetarium. What it actually is a huge dome covering a oil rig, like a mock oil rig, right in the middle of this. So when you actually are inside, it's a three-level thing. It's almost like a mall, and then in the middle of it, there's actually like this huge like oil rig, but it's not a real oil rig. It looks like an oil rig, but in the middle of it, there's two walkways from like the outer mall area to entrance it, and it's a restaurant or really a bar, right? It's a bar, and so we decided to go there, and that's where we're gonna have our wedding celebration. So drinks start flowing. The dancing between her and I continues to go, and at some point, the bartender says, because it turns out a lot of elderly people like this Reno, Nevada oil rig bar. So we're literally dirty dancing in the oil rig bar, to the point that we get kicked out. We
Oh
get
my god,
kicked out. We get kicked out of the oil rig. But now it's like late enough. We go
I think I've
upstairs.
ever heard this story.
I know. So we get kicked out of the oil rig bar on our wedding. And so, it was my argument was, well, we just got married. They're like, we don't care. I'm like 10-4. I'm out of here. So we go up to the room and everything like that. We've got to fly back the next day. It's Sunday when we're flying back. I've got to work Monday morning at 6:30, right? So we wake up the next day. There's three flights that are leaving to go to Dallas. There's one in the morning, one at noon, and one around like 6 p.m. No seats are available on the first one. No seats are available on the second one. So we're literally sleeping on the floor in Reno, Nevada airport for like a whole day until we get on the flight that takes us back to Dallas. So we get back to Dallas, but there's no flights to St. Louis. The only option is that we take a pass and we use it to go to Nashville. So that was our only option. We flew to Nashville. We got there around like just before 9 o'clock, and it's Sunday. We figured we're going to be able to rent and drive to St. Louis, but little did we know all the rental places closes at 9. So
Oh
we
no.
found so we found the last one that was like basically pulling down the gate. And I put the whole story on her. Like, we just got married, we're trying to get back. I gotta work at 6:30, blah, 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 blah. But Kate and I had made a conscious decision to not have a credit card. We thought we were going to live without a credit card. I didn't realize how hard that is to do because, yeah, they didn't want our debit card for the car. Like, they wanted a credit card. And I'm like, shoot, what do I do? So what did I do? I call my dad. I'm like, Dad, I'm in Nashville. It's Sunday. It's like 9 o'clock. I've got to work at 6:30 in the morning. Do you think I could use your credit card to reserve a car to drive back? He's like, sure, no problem. He gives me the credit card information over the phone. I go to give it to the lady. She won't take it. She's like, you can't give it to me. You have to book it online. So time's a ticking. The register will shut down. And eventually I can't get it to work. I'm about to lose my opportunity. I go to her, I go, no, I go, I don't know what's happening. I can't reserve it. It's not letting me, blah, blah, blah. She takes it upon herself to go into the system, use the credit card information. She gives us a car. So now we're in a car. It's around 10 p.m. I'm usually getting to work at like 5:30, and it's about a 4.5 hour drive, I think, from Nashville to St. Louis. So we're driving through the night, and Kate's driving. She doesn't mind driving, she actually prefers it. And we're driving, we're going through Kentucky, and we get pulled over. And I tell the Kentucky police officer the story, and he's like, and I show him my badge too, and he's like, well, okay, there's deer crossing the highway, so drive a little slower. So we get all the way back to St. Louis. I hop in the shower. I may have taken like an hour nap. I change. I get to work at 5:30. I'm sitting there in my place. Squad meeting starts. Someone looks at me and says, "What did you do this weekend?" And and I told them the story, and everyone, no one said anything. Everyone was just like blank face, like, what in the hell? But now that I look back at it, yes, it's a crazy story, but I love that story. You know what I mean? I love that story because it's our story. It wasn't like the typical like, hey, let's get married, and then you do the the typical stuff and the parties and the presents. Yeah, it's we just wanted it to be, and that's what it
Yeah.
was. And I think that, I love it so much just even thinking about that story, let alone sharing it, because it's just, I don't know. It was a huge moment in my life. It's one of those
Yeah,
key
yeah, and
moments.
you have the good, the bad, the funny, the ugly, all of that in that story as well. So it's kind of a little bit of a shit creek of your own doing, and
Yeah.
bad luck, and then good luck, and overcoming it.
Yeah.
We actually got
All the
married
time.
very similar. We were both going through a divorce. Julie and I were going through divorces when we met.
Right.
Then after the divorces were over, and I had gotten orders to go to Iraq because I had gone back into the service after being out for 6 years, and we're like, let's just do it. I mean, we love each other. I'm going to go for a year. Well, this will definitely be a test if we're meant to be when I come back. But let's go ahead and get married while I'm gone. That way, you can keep getting some money to help pay for the apartment. You can be on my insurance, all that kind of stuff. It just seems like it made sense, and we didn't tell anybody. We just went to Kansas City one weekend, and I opened up the yellow book, the yellow pages, because I don't think they had anything more than a flip phone back then.
Yeah.
This is 16, 17 years ago,
Yeah.
and I found a
So
preacher.
was it like, had you planned going to Kansas City to get married, or was it like you were literally in Kansas City and you're like, you know what, we should get
No,
married, and you pull it?
we were like, let's go to Kansas City and get married. Is what we said.
Beautiful.
No other plan. And we don't know what
Hmm.
we're going to do when we get there, how we're going to do it. But we did go to the St. Louis courthouse and get the paperwork in St. Louis. So we
Okay.
had the marriage certificate. We had it all filled out. We found a preacher in Kansas City with the yellow book, yellow pages, and called him and asked him if he would do the ceremony for us. So we just wanted something simple. We didn't really care where. So we ended up going to his house. So we're in this strange man's house to get married, and he goes, do you guys have any witnesses? Because you have to have witnesses to bear witness to this union. And we're like, shit, I mean, we didn't even think of that. Getting ready to start my third marriage. You'd think I would be the expert at this point in time, but no, no. I didn't even think about that. So he goes to his neighbor's house and gets his neighbors to come over and be our witnesses.
What? I didn't
Yeah.
know this story.
And then we're
That's
getting in the
so
car and we're
cool.
going back to the hotel. We're going to have we stayed at a pretty nice hotel down in the plaza, Kansas City and stuff like that area. As soon as we get in the car after we're married, we even have a picture. They took a picture of us, and when they sent us their decorative wedding certificate that the preacher signs and all that kind of stuff, and they sent us a photo that they had taken with their like disposable camera.
Oh yeah,
So that's our wedding photo. But
that's
we get in the
great.
car, and I go, the first song that we hear is going to be our song now. So whatever it is, it's our song. We got to deal with it. And it was Pink, and it was that rock star.
Well,
Yeah, you're a rock star.
that fits.
Hey, you got to lean into it. Just roll with it. Yeah, that's our wedding story. And like I said, my third marriage, so the third time's a charm. It's her second marriage, which means she's really gonna like her next
I love it. I love it.
husband.
And Julie's so cool. She's so kind and caring
Yeah,
and
I
just
mean, she's a lot
genuine.
like Kate. They're very genuine people, and you know where you stand with them around them now. They're a little different in a lot of other ways too, but there's nothing wrong with that. But I think they both wear their hearts on their sleeve, and I think they're both very caring. And I think they're both the type of people that do anything for the people they love.
Yeah, I
And
mean, how
it's very
lucky are
attractive.
we?
That's very attractive.
Yeah. And how are lucky are we that they chose us? Because the truth is, they chose us. My aunt told me that, who is in Scotland. My dad was bragging to her one time, I think, about like ladies he had met, and she looked at him and said, "Don't get it twisted. We choose you."
Yeah.
And my dad was like,
Touche, touche. It's absolutely true. Absolutely right.
"And how did we find like? I mean, they're like truly ride or die. Like you go to them in the moment where you're crushed, and they actually pick you up. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like
Well, I mean,
just.
this is kind of part of my Shit Creek story as well, because when I met her, like I said, I was going through my second divorce,
Hmm.
and very depressed. You feel like a reject. You feel like a loser. You feel like, I mean, I just what you know.
Hmm.
I'm not lovable, or I'm an idiot and I'm fucking things up with some of my
Which
decisions and my actions, and you're just in
which
a
is
dark
a
place,
which is
and
a normal reaction.
well,
Like you
sure,
know
it's,
that.
it's, it's supposed to be like a death in the family. You're gonna process it like a death in the family. Of course, you know that now, looking back, but going through it, that's the name of the story, isn't it? When you're going through it, you just can't really put those pieces together. And I had gotten a brand new credit card. It was just in my name instead of me and my ex-wife's name together, and it had a $10,000 limit on it. And I
Ooh.
remember looking at that card, going, you know what? I'm gonna have fun with this 10,000, and then I'll just go drive off a cliff or something. I don't know. Like I didn't really have a plan except for
Hmm.
I'm gonna go spend this money, have fun. I'm gonna go to bars. I'm gonna buy people drinks. I'm gonna be the life of the party, and then I'm just gonna, I'm gonna go right off into the sunset that way. And I hadn't re-enlisted yet at this point. And then going from where I lived at this apartment in the downtown area where we worked, right across from Dewey's Pizza, and I mean, I would walk to one bar, I'd walk to another bar, and then I found myself at the bar that Julie worked at, and I found myself going back there an awful lot, and more and more and
Yeah.
more, because it was just a very inviting atmosphere. It wasn't just her or the other girls. There were other cute girls that I could flirt with too, and so I liked it. But there were a lot of guys there that were regulars that hung out and just made it inviting. It made it feel like Cheers. Like everybody knew your name. You walked in, they're like, "Hey, how's it going?" You had your favorite seats that you sat at, and all that kind of stuff. It just was really inviting. So I had that
See,
that warming homecoming feeling included with her, and extreme, the extremely loving person that she can be. We just found ourselves talking about the divorce that we were going through and how our partners were trying to control our lives a little bit in our minds and our visions and our memories of it. I'm sure we made our mistakes too, but we just realized that the stories were very similar, and
hmm,
that's how we connected. We connected from that, grieving moment, that lost moment of a failed marriage, and
yeah.
somehow it just made us really, really strong. And I know a lot of people probably didn't think it would last very long. I mean, I can't really say that I knew it was going to last forever. I mean, at that point in my life, I had no illusions that life was perfect and everything was going to be rosy and cherry. I knew I was going to make some mistakes. I knew she was going to make some mistakes, and we were just going to have to decide to get through it. And as luck would have it, when I decided that that plan was no longer going to be there for me, that that plan was gone, I didn't tell her about it for many, many years. I don't think I told her for probably the first 5 years we were married, or even 10 years that we were married, that I had
Right.
had that thought and that thought process going on. But that's why I
Hmm.
called her my angel or my doll face all the time. And I think it's cute that we have that comparisons with our stories in that regard. But as fate would have it, when I reenlisted when I reenlisted to the military, they had a $30,000 signing bonus for returning vets that had already been through basic training, already had the rank that I had, which was sergeant, and I got 15 up front, and then the other 15 was paid over a 6-year period, and just part of your monthly installments. It went up like $100 a month instead of what you would have gotten. But that $15,000 cash came in handy with that $10,000 credit card debt. So it's just amazing how God works. The timing just sets up perfectly
Yeah.
sometimes for you to either learn your lesson because you were upset
Hmm.
creek and you made some bad decisions, or to even help you get out if you look for it.
Yeah.
If you look for that policeman asking you to come out of the house because it's raining, if you look for the boat knocking on the window asking you to come out of your house because it's raining, and if you look for the helicopter, take the helicopter's guy's hand when he's extending you his hand and the rope down from the helicopter to get off of your sinking house before you drown. You would just
Right.
have to look for them. They're there.
Yeah, that's so challenging because I think sometimes, like in our heads, we're like, all right, in order to get out of this situation, I'm going to need at least this one thing, or I need these five things, or these 10 things. And then God doesn't do any of that. He sends you exactly what He knows you need. You needed to talk to somebody, she needed to talk to somebody. And He put
Yeah.
you guys right in the same space at the same time. And that's just so beautiful. It's so crazy. The story only makes sense when you look back. When you're going through it, you're like, this is so fucked. There's no way my life can actually like, and you think you know what you want to, but you really don't until you actually find like someone who literally doesn't give up on you in your worst moment. And you're like,
Yes.
what the hell are you doing here? And they're like, where else would I be? And you're like, what?
Yeah. Well, Julie has never continued to disappoint me in any way, shape, or form of being my angel and my support group, my main
Yeah.
ride or die. Because,
Yeah.
coming back from Iraq wasn't a picnic either. Being deployed for a whole year when she was never on a military base, she never had a military community to help her out and be a support system. And when the mortars come in and you can hear the alert sounds going off in the background while we're on FaceTiming each other, and then all of a sudden the internet just goes dark for 24 hours because they have to wait to assess the damage and do all the stuff that they got to do before the internet comes back on. She had to sit there for the 24 hours, just sitting there twiddling her thumbs, wondering, well, did that one land on them? Because from her angle, it could have. The way it just, you hear the sirens coming, going off, incoming, 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 and then I look up and then the screen goes dark.
Wow.
So she had to endure that, and not having any other military wives like that lived right next to her to have to share the experiences or to tell her the first time it happened, like, no, no, that's how it happens right now. Just wait. And then, of course, I have struggles from it as well, and I denied that for a long, long time. But she's been there for me all through it. Man, I just can't imagine how hard it would have been without her.
Because especially like when you don't even recognize yourself, you know,
Yeah.
and
No, or where you do recognize yourself as being different and not knowing how to get out of it.
yeah,
Because think about it like a drowning, child type of storyline. I mean, it's happened. There's a famous football player for the Kansas City Chiefs that passed away trying to save a kid drowning. He didn't know how to drown himself, but when you're kicking and screaming because you're drowning, you don't know what you're doing, and you're stressed and you're afraid, and you're just reacting out of instinct to get out of the water somehow, and you don't know what to do. You can actually
right.
take somebody down with you if somebody gets too
Uh,
close to you. So the
yeah,
fact that somebody could get that close to us and we didn't take them down with us, they actually helped save us and brought us back and got us calm and got us relaxed and got us out of the water.
yeah.
That's amazing.
Then hung out with us afterwards.
Yeah,
um,
and it stayed with us. It's like, you can do better, right? Shut up. You've done good.
like you don't know, and then
Yeah, well, when you realize it, please be nice to me and just tell me and rip the band-aid off and go do it. Don't drag it out and lie to me for years and years and years.
yeah, for sure. It's funny we can get scared to even show our true selves to people, but who else are you supposed to show it to besides your significant other? You know what I mean? Who else would you besides your
Yeah.
significant other? And unfortunately, I think there's people out there who aren't able to kind of share their stresses and their pain with their significant other, and that must be very isolating. And I'm
Well,
sorry that.
societal rules, and of course this is all governed by the internet and social media and movies and TV shows. They all tell us that men are supposed to be strong, they're not supposed to
Yeah,
cry,
right.
all that kind of stuff. And well, yeah, you need to be tough, but at the same time, you need to be human, and you need to have somebody you can tell some of your deepest fears and insecurities to. It could be another buddy, it could be your wife, it could be family members, it could be all of them. It doesn't have to be just one
Hmm.
person. Be a therapist. Just find somebody to talk to. Talk to us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Listen,
Anything.
talk to us, whatever works. So I'm gonna kind of bank off that. I don't know how this ended up being related, but we talked about me basically ripping off my ball. I had a pretty
Yeah.
interesting police call within my first couple months of
That's
being
probably one of the
released.
weirdest ones I've ever heard of too. And I didn't go on that call, but I remember seeing pictures.
Yes,
You had a particle on your boot. But tell
yeah,
the
my
story.
paint.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So it's probably around like 8 at night. I can't remember what time of the year, but it was winter, so it was dark. And so call comes out. It's in my in my district, and it's that someone covered in blood. There's a language barrier showing up to a person's house saying that, they need help in some sort of way and they've got blood on them and an injury to their head. And they're saying that, we can't figure out what's going on here. So we get sent. So I show up, my FTO shows up, and the sergeant shows up. So my former FTO. And so we go to the house where the call came from. We see the person on the front porch. She's bloody, but she's being helped by the neighbor. We're trying to figure out what's going on. And all of a sudden we hear a scream coming from another house. So we start moving towards that other house. The front, there's a storm door, but the actual wood door is open. And from that position, we can see blood on the floor. And we're like, shoot. And we hear screaming coming from part of the house. So we start working our way basically into the living room. And the way the kitchen worked is there's two entryways. One officer went to the left, and then myself and another officer went to the right. And we find sitting on the kitchen floor in front of an open fridge a naked man. Okay. He's just laying on the floor naked. And
What was the call for? Just disturbance, public disturbance, peace disturbance, domestic,
yeah,
something like that?
well, yeah, the neighbor had called saying this person just showed up to my front door with a fucking bloody head. I can't understand her. There's a language barrier, but something's going on. It looks like she's been attacked, So, we come flying in, do our thing. So we go into the kitchen. We're coming from two different angles. He's just on the floor with the two doors of the fridge opened up, and he's literally like got his back in the fridge, like laying down. And I start looking at him. We can see his hands, so there's no weapons or anything like that. We're like, okay. So guns go away, and
Or you know
I
he's not
have
hiding one in his prison wallet.
prison wallet. That's terrible. And so we do our thing. We've
Example.
got the taser out in case something happens. And so we're trying to talk to this guy, but he looks like, if you look at his face, he's in a different universe. He's not responding to anything we're saying, at all. So we start closing space on him. And as we do that, I think that's about the time he reaches down and grabs his testicle or his scrotum, if we're going
There
to,
you go.
we'll say
That's
it
the
right.
professional word, probably. His ball
And
sack.
he proceeded to pull his ball sack, his scrotum apart like chicken skin. Ripped it completely open.
Oh man,
So
sympathy pains right now.
so his balls literally fall out. You know what I mean? So all you see a tube, and it turns out the tube that goes to your testicle is really long. You know? So it's almost like down to his knee, like one of them, and the other one's like laying on the floor. And so we go to grab him to try to get him under control. Like part of our duty is to protect individuals from themselves, right? So we're like on top of him, but this dude, I believe, covered, like poured a whole gallon of milk on his head, and he is naked and he is slippery. So I've got gloves on, my brand
Oh,
new leather gloves that are supposed to stop me from getting poked when I go in someone's pocket. I'm grabbing him and we're wrestling, and he's on his stomach now, but he's decided to continue going after his testicles. So we're literally trying to grab his arms away so he can stop doing that. And at some point during the wrestling, I try to hit him in a couple spots for like pain compliance, so he would at least come away from like his testicles, and no response, no pain compliance, nothing. So this dude's on another universe.
yeah.
And so
So
it's
he's either deeply mentally disturbed or he's on something, right?
it ended up he was on
Probably on something.
something,
Yeah.
and you don't know about his mental health at the same time. And so this is happening, and at one point we sort of disengage because we can't get his arms, we can't figure out what's going on. It's me and my FDO wrestling, and the sergeant tased him, and the sergeant's like tasing him, trying to get him to comply. At the same time, this sergeant is gagging and like going, he's like throwing up over to the side. Well,
Yeah,
I'm
sympathy
wrestling
pain.
this dude. Yeah, I'm wrestling this dude. My FTO, eventually we get his arms back, and we get him in the handcuffs. I think the first time we got him in the handcuffs, he slipped out. They were even tight, and he just pulled that son of a bitch out. So we had to like really kind of get him like hooked. And at that point, we're like, okay, what's going on? And we realized we haven't cleared the house. Who else
Yeah.
is in the house? And well, let me say this before, man, I can't believe I missed this part. So as we disengaged on the wrestling to try to re-engage and figure out what we were going to do, he grabbed one of his testicles that was still attached to him. And I looked at him right in the face and I said, "Don't do it." And he proceeded to just go, boom, and he snapped his ball off. Snapped his ball off. So now we're trying to like get him hooked. We eventually get him hooked. The paramedics won't come in the house because the house isn't clear, right? So me and another officer start clearing the house. Guess what's in one of the rooms super pissed off? A pit bull. And I'm just like, shit. All right. So we got a pit bull in the room that's like really aggressive. It's a big boy or girl. I don't know which one it was. And this older police officer who was with me, he's like, all right. So the way we're going to handle this is you're going in first. And if that dog charges us, you shoot it. I was like, okay. Legally, I'm thinking in my head, can I do that? No, but if the dog would have attacked me, yes. But if the dog charges me, I don't know.
You
But
gotta,
those are
you gotta,
famous last.
yeah, exactly. You have to feel the threat. If you
Yeah,
have a real threat, then you can respond to it. But that's the key is you really have to feel the threatening part of it. And it's a big pit bull, so how long does it have to run at you before you're gonna feel threatened?
exactly. And those are famous last words, for a
Yes.
person, because many police officers have been bit in the arms and are no longer allowed to be police officers because they severed the tendons and no longer can operate their hands the
Right.
same way they used to. So, I mean, it really is like a threat because you run into dogs all the time. You don't know what this dog's going to be like. You've got a pit bull. If he gets on your arm and he starts doing shake, you're in a bad situation. So the dog's on the bed in the corner, like on a human like person's bed, and it's blah blah blah. And we open the door, we kind of creep in the room. Dog jumps off the bed and runs past us out the door. I'm a little relieved, and
Oh
but
my God.
then the dog stopped, and I'm like, what the hell is the dog smelling? Guess what it was?
The
He was
balls.
about to eat the testicle. Yeah, he
Yeah.
was about to eat the testicle on the ground. So we had to
Holy
like
piece of
shoo him
candy.
away. Yeah, and so we have to get him into another room. We clear the house, and the paramedics still won't come in. So they give us the stretcher board, right? So we've got the stretcher board, and I don't know what the hell I'm doing with the stretcher board. That's what the paramedics are supposed to be doing. But we have to get him out of the house so he can receive medical treatment. So he's still squirming around and all that kind of stuff, still covered in milk. And it turns out like if you were to open up, it's very slippery and it smells terrible. It smells like death. And so we get him on the board. We're carrying him outside. We strapped his upper body and we strapped his lower body, but we didn't strap his waist. When we hand him over to the paramedics, they're walking out the front door, and this slippery son of a bitch slides out of the whole thing and falls right into the garden with no testicles. And I'm like, this is crazy. And then my boss is like, well, you got to go to the hospital with him. You're gonna have to follow the ambulance and all that kind of stuff. I get into my squad car. I'm covered in some sort of juice. Now I can't decipher if it's milk, testicle juice. I'm starting to freak
It's
out a
all
little
of
bit.
it. It's all
Yeah,
of
the
it.
smell's starting to get to me. I get to the hospital. I talk to a nurse and I look down and I see something on my pants. It's actually a patch of skin with long dark hairs. Yeah, I've got a piece of testicle on me. So now I ask the nurse who has rubber gloves on, "Do you mind taking this off for me?" She looks at it and she goes, "Nope." I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "You're gonna have to do that." So I end up doing it. Now I'm like in the sink like a doctor, you know what I mean? Like I'm washing like elbows up. I'm looking for everything I can possibly do. And now I've got to go back to the police station and write this report, but I'm still covered in testicle juice. So I had to stop at my house on the way, throw away all my gear, my brand new gloves, all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
get there and write that
Burn
report.
that uniform.
Yeah. And then the funny part is, so then I get off the shift. I get off at 6:30 a.m. I come back at 6:30 p.m. What's dangling from the ceiling above my squad meeting seat?
That piece of scrotum, probably.
No, the testicles that usually hang behind a truck. You know what I'm talking about? They're
Yeah.
hanging
Good thing.
right above me, and I'm just like, thanks. All right. So so this is what being a cop is like. So
Yeah, you're lucky you
that
didn't get a nickname out of that.
I don't know. I think there was one, but things.
You're lucky you didn't
Lots
stick
of
with
things.
it.
Yeah, it was pretty shocking. So Name of the game is if you have extra PCP left over, don't just do it on Sunday night to get rid of it, like by yourself. You know what I mean? Like, just don't do that. Don't do PCP by yourself just because you had a little bit extra and
Did
rip
you
off
ever
your own
have any
testicles.
follow up with him in any way?
Not a lot. I talked to his mom, so I think it ended up being his mom's house. So that sucks for her. But yeah, I think basically the report was written and things just moved on, and hopefully, I don't know. I don't know if you roll. I think he still had one testicle attached, so maybe he saved that one, and you could just roll with a solo, or you could just. Can't you get like fake ones now, like little danglies?
Yeah, probably. You put a marble in the sack and hang it from your balls just so you feel the weight doesn't feel off or something.
Or one of those things that, what are those
The
ancient,
Benoit
like
balls.
the Chinese balls that, so
Yeah,
when
the
you move
Benoit
around,
balls or something like that. Or is that the ones that goes that the women hold to work on their?
I don't know what we're talking about, but I'm talking about the balls that you use for meditation. And they kind of like, if you clank them together, they make like a ting. There's like a bell inside. So I can imagine if you use that, you'd be walking around, you'd be like a musical instrument all the time. That could
Yeah,
be pretty cool. But
yeah. People
yeah.
all around you go, man, that guy must have brass balls there. You hear him clinking.
So, what you're hearing right now in real life, this is how police officers have to mentally handle police calls because you have to
Oh yeah.
somehow process what happened, but you kind of, in an odd way, have to do it somewhat through humor to almost create space between you and what had happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you've got to be
There's
ready to go
probably
to the
some
next.
official terminology for it that some psychologists could probably come up with or
Yeah.
share with us. But yeah, I mean, I feel like it's really normal. Military, firefighters, police officers. When I was going to respiratory therapy school and doing my clinical rotations, the doctors and nurses would sit there and talk about calls.
Yeah.
Gunshot victim, massaging his heart. We're eating spaghetti. They're talking about all this stuff, and I'm like going, this is not normal. This is
No.
not normal. Why am I eating spaghetti when we're talking about this guy's chest being tore open and life saved?
Yeah.
Um, so if you're outside of it and you think we're being callous by laughing, just remember, just take it for the intent. The intents are all good. The intents are we were there to help. We were there to help people and try to make their lives better in their worst moments, and not be completely fucked up when we leave it because we saw something so weird, like somebody ripping their frickin' ball sacks apart.
And so people wonder, they're like, how can you handle doing that all the time? It's you have to process what happened, and a lot of times you have to do it through humor. And really, it's looking at your friend and being
Yeah.
like, after a call, someone just ripped their testicles off, and you're like, what just happened? You know what I
Right.
mean? Like that.
And
It is just,
it helps having some older police officers that have seen some things too to be able to kind of guide the way. And
yeah,
it's a process that continually goes and goes and goes
yeah,
all through time
for sure.
and all through incidences. You asked me to try to think of one, and I got one now that I told you something would come from inspiration. That's just how it is. You know,
Let's hear it.
I'm going to go to it. Okay, so yeah, there's a plethora of different things I could say from my time in police services or in the military. In the military, I
Yeah,
was
we're
a military police officer, as an MP. So my law enforcement has been civilian and federal
gotcha.
in those regards. But I'm going to go to an MP story because I want it to be a funny one. Because of course I've seen dead bodies and burnt bodies and suicides and drug overdoses and domestics and knife fights and gunshot wounds. But this one was one of my first duty stations after basic training. We get a call about 2 o'clock in the morning. An alarm is going off. It's a building alarm at the museum that's on post. We get there and there's an unlocked door. So we're like, okay, there's an unlocked door. Did the wind open it? Did the wind knock the door open a little bit, and that's what caused the alarm to go off, or is somebody actually in there? Because every call has to start with some part of like, especially I don't want to say mundane calls because how many times you go on a alarm going off call? I mean, those are
Yeah,
a plethora. You couldn't remember how many times you've gone on those calls, and how many times have those been people inside? Almost never.
rarely. Yeah,
Very rare, one or two. So at some point in time, you got to process. This is probably just a fake one, but I can't take it like a fake one. I got to go and prepare for something to be there, and you go check all the doors. All the doors are locked. Your thoughts kind of go one direction real quick. Well, this door is unlocked,
mhm,
so we got to go in. And the military, they do with the wonderful military ideology, intelligence, whatever oxymoron you want to throw in there. We couldn't carry We couldn't carry our guns with one in
So you have to make contact with
policy.
someone and then rack the gun.
Then rack one in. And if you do, that's part of your report. That's like part of your use of force. If you draw your gun, if you rack one, those are all parts that have to be clearly decided when it happened and why it happened. And you have to really clarify it out, because this is when the shit hits the fan, I guess, is if you have to
Yeah.
put one in the pipe. Now, a lot of us, I mean, I was at this place for 3 years, and I had one deployment to Cuba out of this place for about 9 months of that deployment. So 2 years of that being at that base was either training for combat missions, training for law enforcement missions, or doing law enforcement missions. And we were on a
Right.
rotation. We do like a month in the field, a month doing admin, and then we do a month of law enforcement. And that's how we would rotate through our schedules. So the door's open. Think something's in there. I looked at my buddy. I'm like, time to put one in, right? He did the same thing. We go in. We called it. We made contact. More people were coming to help, search it, because it's a big, huge museum. There's stuffed animals and characters and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
By the
That
front
would.
desk, by the front desk, there is a like a cabinet door that's usually locked. You can see the little lock on it that's open, and there's like a computer of parts have been pulled out from what was stored in there. Some wires, some computer stuff. It looks like somebody had been taking something out and then
All right.
didn't come back for the rest of it.
Got it.
We interrupted them maybe. So now we
Right.
really think somebody's in here.
Uh-huh.
We searched the whole museum. We're getting down to the final hallway of anywhere anybody could be in this museum. People are outside all the doors. Nobody's left yet. This last hallway is the admin. So there's a bunch of offices now. We're checking doors. They're locked. This door's unlocked. We clear it. We're like, man, there's nobody here. We feel like we've searched everything now. And I go, wait a minute. Right, there's one more spot right here at the end of the hallway. There's a big storage container that's blocking our view from the end of the hallway. Is there another
Hmm.
door down there? Is there a hiding spot? Let me just go check it real quick. Now, fatigue's started coming in, and you're kind of, like the adrenaline's starting to go down, because now you don't feel like there's really anybody in there.
Right.
But you still got to do it the right way. So, you're aim where you look, right? That's one of the goals you do when you're searching, even slow searching. And I go to the in container, and I'm like slicing the pie, looking around it. No shit, there is a mannequin dressed in military attire standing against the wall in between the storage container and the wall with its hand up like this and looking towards where I'm looking as I'm slicing the pie. I almost shot this fucking mannequin. I was like, oh, that's not real. That's not a real person. Oh,
Well, that's good. You didn't let one off. So you had to write that report too. That's funny.
I still had to write the report because we locked and loaded, but at least the report wasn't nearly as
Yeah.
long as it would have been if I had a discharge, because then now it's a whole other thing.
Yeah. Yeah. That would have.
When we turned our weapons and ammo at the end of shift, we turned it in. So we had to unload it, take all the ammo out of all the magazines, and put them back in like the little styrofoam containers and give them back to the armor. That armor counts it, make sure he's got all the same ones that he gave you. He checks the serial numbers, the lot numbers, all that kind of stuff to make sure it's the same gun and the same ammo that you left.
That's okay.
Full accountability.
Yep.
And if you come back with one less, then he has to explain why there's one less. So then he has to do a
Yeah.
report too.
And then probably his is like, where did this bullet go? It didn't magically disappear.
Right. Well, it's got to be connected to my report, of course. But yeah, it was. And the nicknames that could have came from that, if I would have let one go, would have been probably pretty harsh too.
Where would you shot him? Like right in the center mass, or would you gone face shot?
Like, I mean, it's such a like when stuff like that happens, like time slows down. Like I can literally think about this. Like I
Yeah.
remember seeing the hand up and feeling that's the threat, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what's the other hand? Is there something in the other hand? So I kind of look down to the other hand, and then you're looking at the face to see if you can register some sort of intent in their eyes. If it's a real person, are they looking, or are they, I don't know. Something's going to give me on how serious this person is about to attack me. And that's when you
Yeah.
see it's just a blank mannequin face. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I
Nope.
almost shot that. But, I mean, that happened like that. All those thoughts, all those decisions happened like that in 1 second. And where my finger went to the trigger, and then I didn't pull because I was like, oh, nope, that's not real.
Oh, finger on the trigger.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you're transitioning. I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Didn't pull it.
Yeah.
Didn't pull
There you go. And a mannequin lives another day. It's good stuff.
it. That's a funny one. That's an embarrassing one.
I like it. And for all
Could
of
have
you
been
out
worse.
there, Yeah, we do have a bunch of stories. Those are just a couple that we're going to share with you right now to kind of get to know us and the craziest things we've seen out there. Yeah, so what we would like as we finish up today, please remember that just like we are sharing our stories, we would love to share yours. So for season 2, we're going to be having guests on to discuss their own stories of being up shit creek, and we would love for you to be one of them. So send us your stories of resilience and bouncing back stronger to shitcreekpodcast@gmail.com, and we can either share your story anonymously or we could have you on the show or we can share it for you, whatever you choose to. It's your story.
You're comfortable.
Exactly. Even if you're in the middle of something, you could share that story too, because it could help somebody who's going through it right now. It could help you knowing that other people are going through it as well. You are not alone. What you're going through does not define you. It's just where you are right now. So again, share your story with us at shitcreekpodcast@gmail.com. Please check out our website at www.shitcreeksurvivors.com. Actually, did I mess up that? So the email is shitcreekpodcast@gmail.com. Web address is www.shitcreeksurvivors.com. And you can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at SHT Creek Survivors, or follow me personally, Cameron.mckay on Facebook and Instagram. I'll be making sure to put up any updates, new releases, whatever it may be, so that other people don't feel alone out there. You got any pearls of wisdom to share to finish up this episode, my friend?
I don't know. I wanted to give another shout out to you. Gave it one a couple of episodes ago to the fine people at the hashtag 22kill community. I think
Yeah.
they've actually changed their name to. Oh shoot, what it is it? I just wore the shirt. I just wore this shirt the other day when you were talking about it. Actually, I noticed that after the episode. It's one tribe, one fight. One tribe, one
One try.
fight. Yeah, that's the and that's the same people that did the hashtag 22kill, which was based off the 22 veterans a day that were committing suicide.
Yeah.
And they've since opened it up to be more than just veterans. They want it to be anybody in the public service industry,
Didn't
first
that take it
responders,
up to like
medical, and all that, right?
didn't it take it up to like, and so so there's 22 veterans who are taking their lives daily, and there's about 7, I think, first responders.
Yeah,
So that's
it's
like
and the numbers
police.
have wavered up and down for the years. When they started the movement that year, the average was 22 a day. And that's also the reason why I wear this ring on my trigger finger. It's a buddy ring. You buy it from the One Tribe, One Fight people, and it's meant to be like a reminder for myself not to ever put myself in that position again to want to do it, but also as a sign that I'm somebody that knows about the hashtag 22 movement. I've somebody that's thought about suicide before. If you've thought about suicide, then you see me wearing this ring, walking around, and I'm a buddy that you can talk to if you're feeling in crisis.
That's beautiful.
Hashtag or 22 kills now, One Tribe, One Fight, and shout out to them, all the people that are associated with them. Groups like
Yeah.
Girls for Gunslingers that are big, huge help. It's a fun group of a bunch of old vets and other civilians, and starts dirty jokes and some girls in bikinis, all that kind of stuff. But the bigger purpose is to be somebody that people can talk to, and there are lots of good stories on there. So go on their Facebook page and get associated with them.
Yeah.
Any other
Something
support
cool
groups you can
happened.
think of. Just try to throw some out there.
Absolutely. I love it. And we've already seen something really cool happen. I posted something on my own personal story, and it was actually like a song having to do with alcohol. And each verse was each person's like battle or struggle with alcohol. And after I posted that, within a couple hours, there were multiple people putting their sobriety date on there. And
Yeah.
I just thought that was amazing that those individuals would get on there, say, I'm working on this. This is where I'm at. You're not alone. Thank you for doing that to the people who are participating, because that's insane. It's one thing to hear like a couple guys talking about it, but then if you start looking around and seeing the same story kind of like reflected in other places, sometimes you're like, ooh. So this is
It could be just
something that,
the affirmation you need to
yeah.
feel like you're not alone. You're not the only one going through something, having those
And you're
feelings.
not a screw up. You're
Right.
not a screw up. People
Yeah.
think that because I'm going through this, or I've made a mess of something, or you think you've made a mess of something, you think you're a screw up. You're not. You're just going through something. And what's going to happen is you're going to get through it, and then you are going to be able to reach back and grab someone else in the same situation. You were going to turn what happened to you into a resource and a saving grace for individuals who are struggling right now. Nothing is worth more in this world than helping others. If when I was on the ground thinking I was about to die, the first thing that came to my head was I should have loved more people. I didn't know what that really meant.
But that's as natural as a feeling that you could have in that moment. That's as bare down, stripped down, naked as your soul could be, and that's
Yep.
what you thought. If that's not
Yep.
telling you that that's ingrained in your whole being, then I don't know what can tell you that that's how you're supposed to live. I mean, like you felt it
Right.
that strongly right then and there.
Yeah.
If that's not going to
And
convince you that that's what you're supposed to do, then nothing will. You're supposed to
And
love
in that
people.
moment, not only was that spontaneous utterance showing that the only thing that matters is like love and kindness and the people you care about and spreading love in this world, but it also revealed to me that the things I'd been spending my time on, like worried about the things of this world, the things that you're told, like if you don't have, you should be ashamed of. If you don't have this phone, you should be ashamed. It's not longer any longer like if you don't have this thing, or it used to be if you have this thing you can celebrate I'm the person who has this thing, but the
Yeah,
reverse side of that is like a sense of shame for the people who don't have it. They feel less than if they don't have it. But what happens is as you're laying on the ground, you're about to die, you don't think about what cell phone you had, you don't think about the money, you
you don't
don't
think about the car.
think about any conquests, like it's you just think about I should have loved more people. That's what I thought about.
Yeah,
That was all that
I don't
mattered.
think you're the only one, brother. I don't think you're the only one.
All right. Well, we're going to do one more episode following this one, and that is going to be the first season. And then we're going to be able to open up the floodgates to all these people coming on since we've basically set up what the format is and how it helps people and all that good stuff. So for now, my good friend, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your stories. Thank you for opening up so other people know that they're not alone. I
Same to you.
love you, and I
Love
will
you too,
see
brother.
you soon.
You got
Sound
it.
good?
Have a good night. See you Thursday. Wrap this up. Peace out.
See ya.